Today, I'm going to look at one of the most common situations that our clients find themselves in, and that's why an ex would reach out to them and then suddenly disappear. Now, unfortunately, this type of mixed signal happens quite often, and most of my clients are left wondering how to make sense of it. But ultimately, what I'm going to argue is that the primary reason that a lot of exes are reaching out to you and then disappearing is a function of them falling victim to the nostalgia principles that avoidants will often fall victim to. Now, if you have no idea what that is, well, that's what the rest of this video is about. Allow me to explain. So let's first start by talking about anxious avoidance and them disappearing. So for the past few months, I've been talking nonstop about avoidance and how they react post-breakup. It's never a one-size-fits-all situation, but I'll tell you what, a lot of what we know about avoidance can explain a lot of post-breakup behavior. So let's just start at the beginning. Most of our clients' exes are avoidant. We know this because we've run two separate polls spaced a year apart, one in 2020 and one in 2021, and the vast majority, over 70% of our clients, said that they believed their exes were avoidant. And really, according to an article that I wrote earlier in the year, an avoidant attachment style is a person that does not like a lot of emotional intimacy or vulnerability within a relationship. They typically revert a conversation back to someone else to talk about themselves to avoid the spotlight. Often that's how you'll figure out if they're avoidant or not. Ultimately, they are afraid of having a deeper emotional connection, and it can all stem from their experience in childhood. They've learned that anytime they are vulnerable, it can be used against them, and therefore they don't rely on other people. Essentially, in a relationship, anytime someone gets close or threatens their idea of independence, they run. This is the common core wound belief that we notice a lot of avoidants have. Of course, to make matters more interesting, most of our clients tend to be anxious by nature. So what's interesting about this is we ran a poll a couple of weeks ago asking our clients, hey, what kind of attachment style do you believe you have? And over 50% of them believe that they have anxious, preoccupied attachment styles. So the most common pairing that we see among our clients and their exes is our clients tend to be anxious while our clients' exes tend to be avoidant. Now, what's interesting about the anxious and avoidant relationship attachment styles is it's kind of like water and oil. They don't really mesh too well. Video detailing some of the issues with this pairing. And one thing they said in their video specifically caught my eye. They said, tragically, this avoidant party triggers every insecurity known to their anxious lover. Under pressure to be warmer and more connected, the avoidant partner instinctively withdraws and feels overwhelmed and hounded. They go cold and disconnect from the situation, only further ramping up the partner's anxiety. And what's interesting about this is we've noticed that often the anxious and avoidant pairing will get caught up in this sort of self-fulfilling cycle. And by looking at this specific cycle, we can actually gain insight into what it is that's going on when an ex reaches out to you and then suddenly disappears. So there are 8 stages to the cycle. The avoidant, we'll start with stage 1. The avoidant wants someone to love them. Stage 2, they find someone, the anxious person, and believe that their troubles are over. Stage 3, the anxious person triggers their avoidant side and they start worrying about it. Stage 4, the avoidant person starts thinking of leaving. Stage 5, the avoidant person actually leaves. Stage 6, they're infused with an independence. The avoidant now feels this sense of euphoria. Stage 7, loneliness begins to kick in. Stage 8, the avoidant starts to feel bad for themselves and wonders why they can't ever find the right person, which leads them directly back to stage 1, and around they go. Now, it's that return of the cycle that interests us specifically. Specifically, stages 7, 8, and the rerun around number 1. So when they start feeling kind of lonely, when they start feeling sad for themselves and asking, why can't I ever find the right person? And when they start looking again for love. Now, them feeling lonely, depressed, and sad leads them to start looking again and really triggers what we like to call the nostalgia principle. So there's really 2 things that can happen upon the turn of the wheel, so to speak, the turn of that cycle. The first thing is they either relive the cycle out with a new partner. And what you'll find consistent among avoidant people is they're in this cycle throughout their entire relationships with everyone. So it's essentially them attempting to relive the cycle out with the new partner, or they attempt to relive the cycle out with you. We're really interested in that second outcome. In fact, in a video I did, I think at the end of last year, where I was really looking at how to make avoidant exes miss you, I essentially argue that avoidants are free to long for an ex once that person is unavailable out of the relationship. And typically out of context, so they are untouched by actual engagement and their deactivation systems aren't triggered, revealing their long suppressed attachment and switching their operating attachment wound from the fear of engulfment to fear of abandonment. This is particularly helpful for us for a number of reasons. Firstly, it describes that often an avoidant won't begin to miss you until a lot of time has gone by. Secondly, it shows that they still have quite a bit of fear operating behind the scenes. So essentially, it's the perfect cocktail of chemistry to elicit the reach out and then disappear behavior that we're focusing on here in this video.